what do I need to put on? Do I need to take something off? I'm freezing over here. How do I get? I mean, it keeps your mind on the mission, and that's what you want.
Hi guys, welcome to ufprogear 30. ufprogear 30 is a new format in which I'm inviting people who have something interesting to say about tactical clothing. So we are always picking a topic in the whole huge field of tactical clothing, and we're discussing it from different angles. We're trying to give you different ideas of how people are thinking about it. Today I'm here with Darko. Darko is the latest ufpro team member. So you joined us when?
June. Early June of this year.
Yeah. And what were you before?
I was 19 years in the uniform.
Ooh.
And
military uniform.
Military uniform. Out of those 19 years, 12 were in the field, and the rest were in the HQ and other S3 parts.
So the topic that we are having today is probably something where you have a lot to say about, and it's winter clothing. And I guess you can tell a lot of stories about that.
I probably have one or two.
Yeah.
One or two.
What's your most favorite weather conditions for, let's say, for doing your job as a soldier?
That would probably be late spring, where the temperatures are mild. There's not a lot of precipitation. I am sorry for that. So, and it's dry. There's not so much humidity in the air, so that's probably my favorite time to be outdoors and do my stuff.
And what's the shittiest?
The shittiest, of course. Yeah, probably everybody would think minus I don't know how many in winter,
40.
but I would say no. Probably somewhere between, let's say, early winter when it's temperatures are like up to -5, high humidity and raining or very heavy snow. That's probably the worst because you're fighting your moisture management all the time, and focus goes there and you don't know anything else. Yeah. That's probably the shittiest time to do anything.
That's super interesting because I read in a survival handbook, I read that most of the accidents which are related to energy loss, they are related, which are related to energy loss, i.e. bad weather conditions, in this case, are between +5 and -5 degrees.
Oh, I would definitely.
That's the worst conditions that you can find.
They are.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean,
like right now, we have that right now outside. Terrible, terrible.
Conditions outside now. Yeah, that's probably the best. Let's say practice to give. It's the shittiest weather because in really extreme cold temperatures, and if there's no humidity, you're just fighting the cold, and it's easier. Just you put layers on. If you're active, take a layer off, and you can fight it. But once you put in moisture in, where it's coming in from everywhere, like in the air, precipitation, if it's snow or rain, it just overwhelms you. Your body, your senses, it's... Like I said, it just takes the focus of everything and just you focus on yourself. How will I stay warm and try, and it just rarely anything works.
That brings us right into the topic. I mean, at ufpro we're developing tactical clothing. Everybody knows that in the meantime. And for me personally, as I'm responsible for product development, for me personally, this kind of key experience was I was out. It was probably what you described, this -2, -3 degrees. I had a backpack on, and I was walking, and I was freezing and sweating at the same time.
Yeah.
And I said, I would like to invent something which would help me in such an environment. I mean, I have to admit that when it comes to cold, I'm a real chicken. I'm freezing very, very fast, and therefore I'm even more sensitive to it. But, like you described, that temperature, that's the killer.
It is, and especially what you said, I mean, personal tolerance to cold and wet it has to be accounted for so much. I mean, in my experience, I saw a lot of soldiers or my colleagues wearing crap load of layers in the winter, but some of them, they were good with 2 or 3, and it just so depends on the person, how they can tolerate the cold, metabolism, fitness. I mean,
Absolutely, and that is also. That's also every time when we are getting asked until which temperature are your clothing rated.
Oh yeah, so.
I mean, I can understand the question, and I also know where it comes from. It comes originally from sleeping bags. So in sleeping bags, of course,
I didn't know that.
Sleeping bags always have this comfort range and this danger range. I mean, when you face the danger of freezing or frozen or dying in your sleeping bag. But if you have a sleeping bag and if you have a garment, most of the times in the sleeping bag, you're not highly active. I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing outside, but...
It depends, I mean...
But you never have this challenge like a soldier or a police officer or just an outdoor freak, a bushcrafter, that you're active and then you're static and then you're active and then you're static. So your body always produces tons of moisture because of the cooling that it requires. And on the other side, there is adverse outside temperatures, which require that you always want to keep your 37 degrees or 36.5 core temperature, which you have to maintain. And if you don't, because of the outside temperature, then of course you need energy. Yeah. So that means that you have to give your body either additional energy or your body takes it just from somewhere else. Yeah. And immediately
probably storage.
Yeah, the storage. And unfortunately not
not that storage,
that storage, but it goes directly from the muscles.
Yeah. And probably the biggest, in my experience, the biggest mistake from individuals approaching this issue with the mentality that they can put one thing on and it will cure everything, and it will be good for when you're static, when you're active, if it's moist, if it's raining, if it's extremely cold, and it will just work all the time. But that's Harry Potter stuff. I mean,
who has such a rucksack with him?
I mean, I would have to have have my apartment with me and change clothes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's always a compromise. And what I found, and what is that the compromise has to be made by the individual, because like we said, you're susceptible to cold. I would probably say I'm in the medium range. I don't like the cold, but I can stay in a cold. I am resistant to it. I can, let's say, hold out some time. And there are, of course, people in extremes that walk around in -10 in shorts and stuff, and they don't mind it. So usually the biggest problem is trying to find that magic Harry Potter wand. Just put one thing on for everything, and usually that's
I'm working hard on that. I'm really working hard on it, but I won't succeed until next year. Sorry.
Okay, I know.
2 more winters to go.
2 more winters to go. Oh, that's very good to hear.
Minimum. Sorry. Now, what I'm telling usually when these questions come up, I say, like you mentioned, personal perception. That is the first and very critical thing. In clothing, when it comes to rating for clothing. Not talking about sleeping bags. It might make sense in sleeping bags, but clothing. So first of all, of course, perception. Second is, of course, what you are wearing underneath. I mean, you have all the freedom to put underneath your super jacket for which you want to have the temperature rating. You could put under it 400 gram wool power merino or a 200 gram or whatever. I mean, you could combine whatever you want, and then you get the temperature range that you want.
Of course, yeah.
Sure, the key component is the last layer, that's the insulation layer, but nevertheless, I mean, what you're combining defines what temperature range your system allows you to go.
Definitely. I mean, underwear and what we wear underneath that outer layer that you're working on hard, 2 more winters and we're gonna have it?
Yeah, 2 more winters.
The magic one?
Minimum.
Yeah, it makes all the difference. I mean, if we go to the extremes, you can have like 10 undershirts under there and have a great jacket on. Probably it's not gonna work. I mean, in terms of body armor or let's say any backpack, rucksack, it's gonna be awful. On the other hand, if you just have like a nice summer shirt underneath.
Sports shirt.
Yeah.
Functional t-shirt.
Yeah. It's gonna suck again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always that compromise, but there's no written rule. What should you wear? It depends on individual and their.
Yeah. And then on the daily condition of that individual. I mean, if I was hanging out with my friends the night before and I was drinking until I couldn't find my way home anymore, then the next day I'm freezing even more.
Definitely.
So that's absolutely clear.
I totally agree. I mean, and probably we come down to whatever you're doing here. I mean, good garments and good solutions always benefit you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that individual has to plan what are they going to wear, looking at the activities they're going to have. I mean, it's a big difference between taking a very long hike in, let's say, horrible conditions like they are today outside, or setting up an, let's say, observation point and then getting into contact, breaking that contact, and going into some kind of a static phase again. And in everybody that's doing that has to have that in the back of their mind. What is the activities that are waiting for me or I'm planning to do, and how should I wear, and what should I have in my backpack?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is why we were putting a lot of focus on that. We call it active extreme. So you have a high physical activity level and you have extreme climatic conditions, and with extreme we have now defined what is for us extreme, and that is, you know, these 10 degrees around 0 degree. These are the critical. This is the critical area, because the key component is the moisture management.
Yes.
Because
definitely,
if you're wet, as a rule of thumb, a wet material conducts temperature 10 times faster and 10 times more than a dry material. Yeah. Because in a dry material you have dry air, and dry air is the insulator, which we are all using in any type of thermal insulation. So if you are highly active and you have a super nice warm winter jacket, then you're totally wet underneath.
Yeah.
Which means that your nice super winter jacket will not help you a lot because you are going to freeze from the inside outwards.
Yeah, you
not
just
from
failed.
the outside in, but from inside out. And that's a killer. I mean, I don't know how you see it. My personal preference is when I start my activity in bad weather conditions, then usually I start freezing. So
definitely.
I start freezing because then I know, okay, activity is going to warm me up. And I'd rather then afterwards put something warm on and after half an hour stop and put wet clothing down back into my rucksack because then I'm freezing definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way my experience is when I was a squad leader, I probably used one of your methods that you just described. The way I checked if I'm kind of, let's say, dressed okay, and before I went to order my squad how to get dressed, is I checked it and I went outside, and if I was cold, standing outside, and if I was start shaking, let's say, very soon, that would be that was the right solution if we were planning to be very active. So let's say we had to cover long distances over on foot, or we were expecting, let's say, contact or whatever. And that was the method I checked. That was my personal method. I mean, probably somebody would say, well, you can go out naked and you're going to be
shaking.
Yeah, you're going to be shaking. Yeah, but just being short of naked and getting dressed and stuff, this was one of my methods. How did I check if I'm dressed okay? And of course, if I was warm, that was a big no-no. That's definitely,
absolutely.
You can't start any activity warm.
Don't feel comfortable in the beginning.
If it's comfortable in the beginning,
crucial.
It's gonna suck down the road.
Crucial mistake.
And I know, just to elaborate on that, let's say, story. I mean, we always had a plan. At least I always had a plan. I mean, if we were active, you're definitely going to have periods when you're going to be passive. It doesn't matter if you're in the military, in our situations, or if you're a hiker. I mean, you're definitely going to stop, have a break or something, and and that's probably the time when you have to plan before you start. What are you going to put over it? Is it going to rain then? I need something that's going to keep all of my warmth and all that energy stored inside, and I can still take it off, put it in my backpack, and continue my...
How did you solve that?
What we did is usually we put our Gore-Tex, hard shell, and pants. There was rare occasions I let my soldiers use that. That was always our, let's say, I'm not going to say sleeping bag, but our thermal insulation when we were static. Conducting OPs, or let's say preparing, getting ready for contact, attacking, or whatever. That was the thing that we put over, zipped it all the way... Over everything. Zipped it all the way up. And just, it kept us warm. Even if we were wet underneath, it kept us warm for that period. But again, there was a couple of times when we did activities, we didn't plan them, the enemy did. We had to be active in Gore-Tex, and that's a killer. That's probably the worst thing. But Gore-Tex was usually, hard shells were our lifesavers on when we were passive.
Absolutely. I mean, as much as I love Gore-Tex, and I always have Gore-Tex with me when I'm going for a couple of days out, but high activity, it's a no-go. High activity in Gore-Tex is a no-go. I mean, I prefer to get soaked wet from the outside instead of having that Gore-Tex on top of me, it's constricting me. I feel as if somebody is going to strangle me. So, like I said, I'd rather get soaked wet than have that. I mean, I cannot function.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on coming from the military, I mean, it gives away your position. It's very loud. I mean, even when we put it on, we really had to mind our movements because it shushes all over the place. It is really a hard fabric, and having it, let's say, on the move under my body armor and stuff like that, it was very uncomfortable. But on the flip side, like I said, nothing was as good as Gore-Tex when we stopped.
Absolutely.
When you close everything off.
Gore-Tex then.
When you closed everything off, I was warm and nice.
Absolutely.
It was, for that reason, we always had it with us.
Now, there is another thing that I would like to discuss with you, and that is, I mean, up to the moment we are using, except from merino, which as a fiber we are using for certain products, we are using mainly G-Loft, which means a synthetic thermal insulation. I know that most of the militaries, they're using synthetic insulations for, let's say, climatic conditions which are maybe up to 20, 30 degrees. And when it goes over 30 degrees, and of course everything is dry, because at these temperatures usually everything is dry, even though I have heard from regions where even at 40 degrees they have 90% humidity and wind. So that's a real challenge. That's a real challenge. So let's keep that aside.
Yeah, let them have it.
Who wants that can have it.
Yeah.
Now, what's your experience with thermal insulations now, synthetic compared to down? Do you have any experience with real down equipment?
As a soldier,
No.
To be honest, we never, ever looked at any of our garments in comparison. Is this synthetic? Is this a natural material? We always looked at it just from one side. Does it work for us and for our mission or not? I mean, I do understand it is nice, some benefits like absorb weight.
Yep. That ratio, weight versus thermal insulation, that's fantastic.
Definitely, and this is just what I was trying to say. I know a lot of our mountain units, they're still big on natural fibers, especially for the...
Gloves.
That's the word that I was looking for, gloves and socks. And they probably work. I never wore them because for me, there was too much, let's say, stuff or fabric in my boots, and I never liked them. I do imagine they work, but they didn't work for us because we had issues with it, and for us it was better to have, for our missions and our movements and everything, lighter things, because every gram, even if we're talking about socks and stuff, it just adds weight to my backpack. When I put it in, I have to, we always carried extra stuff, of course. I mean,
I mean, if I can jump in here, this is interesting because I mean, I'm a big fan of merino wool, and it's really great, but I would never have it as my primary insulation because of the weight, like you mentioned it. I have a 400-gram wool power sweater, and it's great, but that's the maximum that I would take with me. And still, chicken as I am, I would need then still a winter jacket on top of that. Now, I found these goose down, I find it very interesting. The problem, though, is that this clogging, when it gets wet, when the feathers when they're clogging together, and when you're losing your insulation properties. Now, if you know that you're
and you're getting heavier,
and it's getting heavier as well, but what I wanted to say is, if you know that you are in Alaska or wherever, or in the Antarctic, and you have very dry, extremely cold environmental conditions, then I think Goose Down that's the product that you want.
Yeah.
When you're getting into areas where you don't know, will it be wet? Will it not be wet? Will it be dry? Can I rely on it that it is dry? Can I put my primary insulation at the risk of clogging? I would never use it.
No,
I would never use it.
So that's a very good point. Yeah, definitely.
Never use it. Because, I mean, it might be dry today. How is it tomorrow?
What about tomorrow? Yeah.
And another day. So this is where I would always say, okay, I understand it. My G-Loft jacket is a little bit heavier. It's a little bit bulkier, but I can totally rely on it.
And that's what you want.
Absolutely.
Out in the field.
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for.
Especially at these conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're because that puts your mind at ease and
absolutely.
Or let's say it lets your mind focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're hiking or a military guy or a law enforcement guy or hunting game. It doesn't matter. But it keeps your mind on that thing, what you're doing, and not on what do I need to put on? Do I need to take something off? I'm freezing over here. How do I get? I mean, it keeps your mind on the mission. And that's what you want.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as soon as my personal experience is, as soon as as something is bothering me, then my total awareness of my environment closes in. So I'm getting so much more occupied by what is bothering me, even though I try to, ignore it, get my awareness back in place.
But that again takes your energy, because you have to think about thinking about something else.
Absolutely, yeah. And that is also, I mean, it's nice that we are coming to exactly that point, because that's the point that we would like to provide to the wearer. We like to provide him garments which help him to focus as much as possible on the mission, instead of problems which are related to garments. So that's our philosophy, and I guess that with winter clothing, this is really key.
Definitely,
because the environment is really playing games with you at that time.
It is. Definitely. I mean, especially the topic that we were discussing, the synthetics versus natural. I mean, cotton is used in, at least in my experience, is used in a lot of uniforms, and sometimes even 100% cotton.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's a freaking disaster if you get wet, and if we're talking that it's raining and you're wet and outside is like maybe 1 or 2 degrees Celsius or up to -5. In 30 minutes, you can't do anything else. I mean, you're going to be. I had one of the instances really back in the days when I was shaking so hard I couldn't take my gloves off that were wet, but I couldn't take them off because I was shaking so much, and I couldn't grab the freaking finger to get it off.
If someone has never experienced that, they wouldn't believe you.
Yeah, and
they think that you're handicapped, and you are in fact, but not genetically, but
momentarily,
environmentally,
No, and not using let's say the technology solutions that are offered to mitigate those things. It's just, I don't understand that. I mean, it's just a way forward, of course. I mean, we're talking about sometimes, like we said, if we put all this together, it can eventually save lives. I mean, because in terms of environment, of course, and in terms of operations. I mean, because again, if you don't think about how miserable you are and how wet you are, and I don't know how you miss your mommy and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you can focus on what you're doing or what your leader told you to do, or whatever. It doesn't matter, or where you're going, or oh look, there's a deer. I'm hunting deer. How about shooting it? And it would be I don't want to say idiotic, but I just did. It's just. Not a smart thing.
But you know, it's understandable. If you're looking back, I mean, I have the advantage of looking back in my life, and I was a soldier long ago, and I know what they gave us for wearing and how ridiculous it was. But at that time, we were cannon fodder. We were just part of a numbers game. Today, the individual operator is so much more important. So it's so much more important that you give that guy everything, that he is fulfilling his mission 150%. And that in our times, I mean, we were, I don't know how many hundred thousands in the German army. And I mean, okay, 10,000 more or less.
Yeah, it's just statistics.
That was just written off. So therefore, I think it's great, not just for us as a company, but I think it's great also for the individual that today there is so much more effort put into clothing, which gives also the proper estimation to the individual.
Definitely.
Of course, with the idea in the back of the mind that I want to get as much performance out of that person. But thanks a lot. Yeah. Because that changed mindset gives us great clothing.
Definitely. And again, we did a whole loop at the end of the day. I mean, now there's a lot of options out there, which are very, very good, and being aware of your limitations and planning your things, planning your activities. Military, law enforcement, outdoor, it kind of doesn't matter. It always follows the same principle. Will set you up for success.
Yeah.
And
there's. I mean, it's the basic.
Yeah.
It's the basic. I mean, then it's training, then it's everything, then it's how good you are at what you're doing. But at least that's the minimum that we can provide.
Definitely. Yeah. And being aware that there's. Harry Potter wand does not exist, or it's still in the works.
We're working on the second prototype. The first one was a complete failure. A total failure.
Well, I'm looking forward to the second one. Let's say generation 2.
I might share my experiences with you. Hey, Darko, it was super great talking to you. I really enjoyed it, because hearing from a professional how he experiences environments in which is not so funny to be outside. I mean, it's a challenge. It's nice. I like it in a way, but still, it's a challenge. So this was it for today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm looking also very much forward to the next conversation.
And the beer.
The beer was great. So, goodbye, guys. I hope you liked it. You might leave some suggestions or questions in the comments below. If there is anything that you would be interested in for our next discussion, just put us a note, send it in the comments, and we are trying to take it up and have a nice chat about it.
Yeah, and it'll give us a chance to get more beers. So please do.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.